let's go through some news, and we have a kind of breaking news, isn't it, today? That in about 2 weeks' time, Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet with US President Donald Trump, most likely in Budapest. At least this is the announcements that we are hearing. And this information is coming after yesterday's phone conversation, quite a lengthy phone conversation between US President Trump and Russian President Putin. They spoke about 2.5 hours, maybe a little longer than that, right? Discuss many topics, and for many of us, probably it was somewhat surprising that this phone conversation, even take place. If you keep in mind that today Trump will have a meeting with Zelensky, isn't it, in the White House, and prior to this meeting, all Trump was doing, or his administration, including Pat Hexet, who was in Brussels just a couple of days ago, is issuing more and more threats towards Russia with attacks, deliveries, and all sorts of other stuff. And then suddenly, Trump said, like day before yesterday, that he will have a conversation with Putin. And actually, his administration, I guess, contacted Russian side, and their phone conversation was arranged in quite short time. And yesterday, two presidents actually spoke, which is, you know what, maybe it is a waste of time on part of Russian president to talk to Trump. But if there is a slight chance, to de-escalate, I can understand why Russian president or Russian leadership would be inclined to have such conversations, right? And I can understand why Russian president agree, most likely on initiative of Trump, to have yet another meeting in Budapest. It is unfortunate that on some ways that Budapest was chosen, not because I have anything against Hungary, no, man. All the respect to people of Hungary and the leadership of Hungary. But last time I checked, previous meeting between the two was in Anchorage, Alaska, right? US. And based on tradition of protocol, let's say, usually when one leader visits a country, then leader of that country visiting back, right? So it would be better if Trump would, travel to Moscow or to any other Russian city, by the way, right? But nevertheless, most likely meeting will be held in Budapest, which is good news for Hungary for sure. For Hungary's leadership, position of Orban definitely will strengthen after such a summit, which is a good news because we all understand that Hungary is experiencing tremendous pressure from Brussels and the globalists, right, for its principal position that is based on defending national interests of that country. But nevertheless, by the way, you know what question I have at this particular moment? When Russian president signed up to be psychologist of Trump, and this is not a rhetoric question because if you notice, every time Trump and Putin have a conversation, for the next 24 to 48 hours, Trump usually behaves relatively adequately. Did you notice that? He is more energetic, more happier, does makes somewhat adequate statements, not always, but time to time. But unfortunately, this lasts for only 24, 48 hours. And then I guess globalist neocons are drilling his freaking brains, right? Putting some extreme ideas in his head, and Trump is back, right? Traditional Trump that loves to brag about how great he is and how everyone should be afraid of him, right? Probably this will happen this time around also. And maybe this conversation between Putin and Trump would not last, effect of it would not last even for 24 hours, because yet again, this evening, Trump going to have a meeting with Zelensky, and God knows what kind of statements he's going to make there. Maybe he will announce that Tomahawk missiles already been delivered Turkey control territory and are ready to be launched against Russia. Possible, isn't it? But anyways, let's go topic by topic, dear friends. And I will start with this report from RIA Novosti that yesterday Fox News was one of the first who made an announcement that phone conversation between the two presidents are taking place. Then Trump himself posted about it. And he was saying that right at the moment that he was writing the post, that's my understanding of his words, he was having quite a lengthy conversation with the Russian president. I was wondering, is he posting on his Truth Social right during the conversation with Russian president, or what the hell is going on? But anyways, afterwards, Trump made an announcement that they will be meeting with Putin in Budapest. And of course, Russian media, as well as media worldwide, are paying attention to this. And so US President Donald Trump has announced plans for a summit with the Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Budapest, Hungary. The meeting will take place at their date to be determined after high-level advisors from two countries meet next week. He said in a Truth Social post on Thursday, Washington's delegation at their initial meeting will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and I believe Steve Witkoff will be in the delegation also. And because from US side, delegation is led by quite high-ranking official Rubio, I guess Russian delegation will be led by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. And after that post on the Truth Social, Trump had a conversation with the journalists, and he went to clarify some nuances, some details. And so let me give you his statements, dear friends, on the matter. Will be better to listen to him than my interpretation of his statements, is not it? And so this is the video.
Also posted about your call with President Putin today, and you spoke about meeting in Hungary with him. Do you have a timeline or a date set for when?
Yeah, I would say within 2 weeks or so, pretty quick. Marco Rubio is going to be meeting with his counterpart, as you know, Lavrov, and they'll be meeting pretty soon. They're going to set up a time and a place very shortly. Maybe it's already set up. They've already spoken. And I thought it was a very good phone call. I thought very productive. But I'll be meeting with President Putin, and we'll make a determination. Tomorrow I'm meeting with President Zelensky, and I'll be telling him about the call. I mean, we have a problem. They don't get along too well, those two, and it's sometimes tough to have meetings, so we may do something where we're separate but equal. We'll meet and talk parties, but this is a terrible relationship the two of them have, and it's one of those things.
So, well, Trump himself says, isn't it, there, that they will be most likely meeting in about 2 weeks' time. Okay, by the way, nothing especially wrong with that, even if eventually it will turn out that it was a waste of time on part of Russian side. Yet again, if there is any chance, even a slight chance, that we can de-escalate, why should not we use that chance? Try at least, right? We will know more after today's meeting of Trump with Zelensky. Let's see what kind of statements will be made there. If Trump will announce that Tomahawk missile is going to be transferred or already being transferred on either in one of the European NATO member states or in Kiev control territory, in that case, I guess chances of meeting between Trump and Putin taking place will be minimal. And therefore, I guess there is a possibility that today there will be no announcements made about Tomahawks between during the meeting between Trump and Zelensky. And Green Goblin gonna be very much disappointed, I guess. Although, dear friends, we should keep in mind that that Yermak, head of Zelensky's office, and some other affiliates of Zelensky were in Washington, traveled to Washington like several days ago, and they already had meetings with their neocons, right, with Kit Kellogg and a number of other groups, including representatives of military-industrial complex. So globalists that are basically backing now mainly this terrorist regime of Zelensky are working quite hard. Globalists and their American neocon allies are working quite hard to keep this proxy war running, right? So we should keep that in mind. And yet again, let's see who will influence Trump today, what he will be told by his advisors. And unfortunately, among his advisors, there is almost almost nobody who can be counted as to be adequate, right? All of them are kind of war hawks, maybe with the exception of Witkoff, maybe, right? Rest seems like to be war hawks, by the way. So therefore, anything to be expected during today's meeting, right, between Trump and Zelensky. But what is also interesting, dear friends, during that conversation with the journalists, Trump was asked about Alaska summit too. And interestingly, he said that, well, Alaska summit was not really a failure because without that summit, this Budapest summit could not be, right? And he also said that, well, Third World War kind of being avoided, or sides are on the path to avoid this war. And well, it is good that Trump is mentioning this very dangerous topic, because it seems like he does understand how dangerous the situation is. Otherwise, why would he mention World War III, right? So let me give you some short video on that also.
Meeting with Putin now will yield different results?
Well, I think Alaska actually set a stage, and that wasn't very long ago, but it set a stage. You have to understand, I came into this situation. I didn't start this war. This is a Biden deal, and I came into it, and it was a mess. It could have led to World War III. In my opinion, this could have led to World War III. That won't happen, but it could have. So I came in, this war was raging. When I left, this wasn't even a thought. For 4 years, nobody talked about it. I spoke to President Putin about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, but there was never going to be doing anything like this. And this all went because of some really bad decisions that were made. And look what you have. You have millions of people dead. You have just a horrible, horrible situation. I'm doing it to save souls. That's all I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it for us. We have an ocean between us. I'm doing it also to help Europe. They want to have it ended, but they're unable to do it. I'm able to do it. So I think we'll be successful. We'll save a lot of lives.
Well, he is, of course, incorrect on a number of points there. European elites don't want to end no war. We'll understand that Europe is controlled mainly by globalists, of course, and globalists are all about prolongation of this proxy war, because they have no reverse gear, they have no brakes, and they don't know how to lose with the dignity, right? And therefore, Trump is definitely wrong on that European wants to end this war. They don't. And Trump is also usually incorrect when it comes to numbers. Probably he just make up numbers. He every week talks about some 7,000 killed. On several occasions, he spoke about some million and a half Russian militaries being killed, which is total nonsense, by the way, right? 1.5 million people is about 1% of the population here in Russia. You're not going to be able to hide this kind of losses. Probably you would agree with me, isn't it? There is no way you're going to hide loss of 1% of your population. It's just not possible, isn't it? But nevertheless, Trump goes ahead and talks this nonsense time and again. Well, when it comes to losses of on part of Kiev regime, well, according to reports of Killnet hacker group, they did manage to hack database of Kiev regime's general staff, and the Kiev regime did lost 1.7 million military personnel already killed and they're missing, right? Not killed and wounded, but killed and missing. So on part of Kiev regime, losses definitely are tremendous, and this is tragedy, by the way, of course, for the Russian world, because as I said many times before, this is a civil war inside the Russian world, and we are basically in a fight against our brainwashed brothers and sisters. Now, unfortunately, Western so-called elites were able to brainwash those people, right? But they still are part of the Russian world, and once this conflict will end, of course, it will be necessary to develop denazification programs and work with those people, right? To bring them back to this reality. But that's a whole different topic. But at least Trump did spoke about World War III, and even though he blamed it on Biden, well, let's be real here. This world was never closer to World War III as it is right now, because it's a Trump that is considering transfer of nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to be deployed against Russia. Biden did not went this far, isn't it? Biden's administration did not risk this much. Trump seems like, or his inner circle, whoever is making decisions there, seems like they were willing to go this length, but I don't know, maybe things will change now. Maybe things will change. I don't know what Russian president told Trump, but his tune definitely shifted, right? From extremely aggressive to more or less normal, right? And maybe Russian president explained him in detail what will happen if these nuclear-capable missiles are launched against Russia. Russian president did explain to him for sure, and I will go back to this point later on, that the Russian president definitely did explain that from military standpoint, deployment of Tomahawk missiles will influence literally nothing on the battlefield, right? Russian president explained this. But fact itself that these nuclear-capable missiles are deployed, of course, will make Russian side very much nervous, because how should anybody know what kind of warheads these missiles have? And so, I mean, we should trust the statements of Washington that there are no nuclear warheads on it. Of course, we cannot, right, risk that much. And maybe Russian president very colorfully and specifically explained to Trump what might happen if US and other NATO member states will go ahead with the next phase of escalation, which will include deployment of Tomahawk long-range missiles also. And who knows, hopefully this will work, right? Because clearly, for now at least, Trump's rhetoric has changed, and he is no longer acting as like extremely crazy. So good, by the way, that Trump is realizing that there is a risk of all-out war and World War III, right? That will be end of everything. If he understands that, and his inner circle, maybe they will actually go ahead and de-escalate, because it's NATO that is escalating, not Russia, isn't it? We did not send our troops to Mexico to attack US. We did not send our troops to Canada to attack US. We did not do any of it, right? We did not send our long-range weapon systems, nuclear capable or non-nuclear capable, on the border with the US. We did not move our military infrastructure there. Although Russia could, by the way, right? If Moscow wants to, of course, Russian long-range weapon systems already would be deployed in Venezuela, in Cuba, in a number of other countries. But we did not, because we are not seeking no Third World War to happen, by the way. We are not seeking no escalation. It's just, it is what it is, right? But anyways, dear friends, after these statements, Trump also was asked about Tomahawks, obviously. And let me give you his comment about Tomahawk missiles. His tone definitely changed. His tone definitely changed. Maybe this is a part of deception operation. Maybe Trump is that good of an actor. I don't know. Or maybe he is honest, man. I have no strong opinion on that, but his stance on Tomahawk seems like changed a little bit, right? Just listen to it.
About the Tomahawks, did you
About
discuss
what?
the Tomahawk missiles? Did you discuss?
Well,
those?
we talked about it a little bit, didn't say much, but I do say to you, we need Tomahawks for the United States of America, too. We have a lot of them, but we need them. I mean, we can't deplete for our country. So, they're very vital. They're very powerful. They're very accurate. They're very good, but we need them, too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
So you see, a couple of days ago, his rhetoric was a bit different, right? He was considering transfer of Tomahawk, and yesterday he said that, well, we need those missiles for ourselves, right? And although he's bragging about how capable Tomahawk missiles are, in reality, this is just an ordinary cruise missile, subsonic cruise missile, by the way. That is not a big issue for Russian air defense systems. Only main difference from already deployed against Russian missiles like Storm Shadow or Scalp Aegis, for example, is that Tomahawk is nuclear capable. That's the main difference and the significant one, right? But in other ways, Russian air defense systems will deal with those Tomahawk missiles in a very same way as they do with their Storm Shadows, ATACMS, Scalp Aegis, and whatever else NATO might throw at us, right? And if any country has a actual most capable air defense systems in this world is Russia. Some people think Israel has most capable one, but no, man. If any country in this world has a most capable air defense systems, it's Russia, first of all, and then others, right? Israel is not even close, man. They are struggling to intercept freaking drones. Like from 5 drones that are launched, usually 1 or 2 are managing to bypass this highly advertised Iron Dome, right? And Iran just recently humiliated Israel's air defenses, isn't it? We all see that. But anyways, their main point in this Tomahawk, in regards to Tomahawk missiles, is that they are nuclear capable. Otherwise, I said in my previous updates, isn't it, dear friends, that even if all 4,150 Tomahawk missiles that US has in its inventory, allegedly, is deployed against Russia, launched against Russia, first of all, majority, and even simultaneously, vast majority of them will be intercepted by Russian air defense systems, and whatever missiles will manage to bypass air defenses and hit some targets would not be able to cause damage on such a scale with the conventional warheads, would not be able to cause damage on a scale that will actually influence either Russian military industrial complex in a big way or a situation on the line of contact. And I guess Russian president explained exactly that yesterday to Trump. And if Trump had a consultation with his militaries, they will probably tell him exactly that, because since the beginning of this special military operation, dear friends, how many Iskander missiles Russia used, how many Kinzhal missiles Russia has deployed, how many Tornado S long-range precision missiles Russia used, how many Calibre missiles Russia used, or Ha-101 or other cruise missiles. Number is in thousands, right? Number is in thousands, and on the Kiev control territory, there is still some elements of military industrial complex left. Civilians may don't really understand that these missiles are unable to eliminate entire factory, for example. Definitely not in former Soviet Union, because here, most of these military industrial complex factories were built during the Cold War, right? And during this process of building, engineering this stuff, everything was accounted for, including use of nuclear weapons, right? And some of those factories, by the way, have actually bunkers that should withstand potentially even nuclear strike. And these are enormous enterprises, right? That stretch for kilometers and kilometers away, in length. So Russia already used their thousands of missiles, nothing to be said about glide bombs and so on. And still Kyiv regime to nowadays able to maintain certain level of military industrial complex and the energy sector. Because these missiles are not panacea, by the way. You have to use hundreds of thousands of them if you want to completely eliminate everything, right? And US does not have so many those missiles. Only way you can actually do some, serious damage to military industrial complex of Soviet era is to deploy nuclear weapons. And if nukes are deployed, then that's a full-scale nuclear war and the end of everything, right? So maybe someone actually explained to Trump, not just Russian president, and someone in US that, well, I mean, we can send all our Tomahawk missiles, but it would not make no much of a change, right? Because this is just factual. Of course, it will harm, by the way, don't get me wrong. It will be harmful, it will be painful, of course, but it would not destroy the Russian energy sector or Russian military industrial sector or turn the tide. It would not. That's it, right? But yet again, now Trump's statements do make some sense, but during the day, probably globalists and neocons will try hard, right, to influence him so that for this evening, when he will have a meeting with Zelensky, maybe globalists and neocons will manage to turn his, change his attitude 180 degrees. Maybe Trump will make U-turn before this evening. We will see. We will see. Anyways, dear friends, I should remove this video. And also Trump went to comment about sanctions on Russia, right? That he was threatening with and his affiliates, right? Number of high-ranking officials in the US. And he made a comment about sanctions also. And let me give you a short video on that too. As I said, dear friends, every time he has a meeting with the Russian president for 24 to 48 hours approximately, his statements, at least time to time, does make sense, right? And I'm demonstrating to you right now that I'm correct. His statements, at least in some ways, does make sense, right? He is not becoming completely normal because it's hardly possible, but clearly Russian president has some positive influence on this person. Well, where is the video about sanctions? That's the video, by the way. So
Putin today said he'd like to proceed with the bill which would put sanctions on Russia. What's your thought on that?
Well, we're going to see. He doesn't know about the call yet. I'm going to speak to him later. And it was subject to what I wanted to do. And so we'll see what happens. This may be such a productive call that we're going to end up, we want to get peace. We want to stop the killing. 7,000 people a week. Can you believe it? We want to stop the killing. So I'm going to speak to him and the speaker, Mike Johnson. I'll speak to them a little bit later and I'll tell them about this. And we'll make the right determination. I'm not against anything. I'm just saying it may not be perfect timing.
Interesting, man. Wow, it might not be perfect time. Okay, makes sense, isn't it? And so I don't want to make a mistake, by the way, that I did after Anchorage summit when I allow myself to be cautiously optimistic. I'm not gonna do it no more, and I will maintain pessimistic approach towards everything that I hear from the West, right? But nevertheless, let's have a hope at least, right? That U.S. administration, with the assistance of Russia or with the assistance of some other intellectuals that might be around the White House will actually realize that the escalation with Russia and cooperation is actually in the best interests, not just for Russia, in Russia's best interest, but also in the best interests of U.S. and U.S. American people, right? And if this realization will settle in, then maybe we will see the escalation. But yet again, I'm not going to make a mistake that I did after Anchorage. I'm not allowing myself to be even cautiously optimistic. But hope, we can allow ourselves to have a hope, isn't it? That the escalation will happen, because all good human beings in this world wants to see end of conflicts, right? And we are no exception, our community, isn't it? Let's see, dear friends. And when it comes to sanctions, I guess, at least for time being, US will stop threatening Russia, and US will stop threatening Russian trade partners too, possibly, because you remember, isn't it? Treasury Secretary of US just a few days ago threatened China with 500% tariffs, which is insane, isn't it? So probably that topic is closer, at least for the time being. It is very interesting, of course, how Trump will behave this evening during the meeting with Zelensky. We might have a little better understanding on overall situation after that meeting. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.